Jack.
Robbie.
How are we?
We're not bad. We've sort of taken a few days after the season's ended and stuff. And I put a post up the other day about the end of the season. I sat there writing and I thought, God, it's the end of the year. Like, it didn't feel right. It was weird.
No. Taken a few days. Just about recovered from that loss away at Workington. 5 hours of our lives travelling up there, never going to get back. But overriding feeling after that, you'll have seen on the vlog. Very proud of the lads. We had an incredible season. I think just here to talk through it. 2022-23 season review.
Yeah.
Where do you feel? How do you feel after the season in terms of the expectations beforehand as to where we finished? So just to remind people, we finished 4th on 64 points.
I think it's because what we have one go straight up and then we have 4 in the playoffs, and I think with the league that was in front of us, I think the expectation and sort of the goal was to get playoffs.
Yeah.
Whether we get through them is another challenge in itself. But yeah, I think especially with all the changes, even before they had happened, I'd have looked at this season and said, right, where we were at the end of last season, the performances we were starting to put in and stuff, and the way the club was going, people who were coming in and playing and things like that, I'd have said playoffs, yeah. So I'd say, yeah, it's been a success.
Yeah, last season, I think we finished just outside the playoffs. I want to say 6th.
Yeah, we were right outside.
So to get into the playoffs, it was the aim. I'm going to be doing, at some point soon, a reaction to my pre-season predictions on my channel. And I put Clitheroe in 8th for some reason. So clearly in my head, I didn't think we could get playoffs. But I think part of that was down to a lot of the change that was going on around the club. And I think finally I don't want to speak too soon, but we've got that stability now. Would you?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think I was sort of the other way at the end of last season. Obviously, we had Kyle and Lee and the rest of his sort of group of management come in. You had Petsy's still here. You had Rippers. I hope I'm not missing anybody off because I was very good. I got on very well with them all. Obviously, I'll mention Harry Whitton because he'll sulk otherwise as physio. But yeah, they'd come in. I thought I was excited to see where they went forward into this season. But obviously it didn't work out and they moved on. Obviously Kyle went to Radcliffe, the league above, got himself some silverware there this season, but it obviously didn't work out for Clitheroe. But with the changes that we've had, I think we've done very well to get playoffs. I think we're hopefully now in a more steady sort of way. Obviously we've got, the chairman's just left, so we've still got time for change, see who ends up running the club completely next year, because anything can happen. But I think from a management perspective, with Dempsey at the wheel, we've now got someone solid who's contracted and who can take us into next season knowing what to expect.
I thought you were going to go into the song then. Dempsey.
No. We won't be doing any of that today.
Trust me, you do not want to hear us sing.
No.
So just to sort of recap, so obviously beforehand there was a lot of, I don't want to say turmoil at the club, but we'd had a lot of managerial change with the likes of Phil Brown leaving after just a year, Lynch coming in and then leaving pretty swiftly. I think he was only there about 6 months.
He wasn't there long.
And then coming into this season, it felt, when Kyle resigned in November, I think it felt a little bit all like, oh, here we go again sort of thing.
Yeah, it did.
And then Dempsey was appointed just a few days later, I believe, but it was only as was assistant coach to Billy?
Yeah, I think, that's been the whole thing of the season, really, hasn't it, from a managerial perspective? It's been this whole thing of player-manager and what that brings to the club. But I'm not a fan of it myself. I like to have a manager who knows what his ideas are and what his plan is, but obviously he needs to have a good relationship with a captain on the pitch. But I don't like these assistant managers who are there on the field. He was the manager and then Kyle was his assistant, obviously, when he come in, and then Dempsey the same again. But I think they very quickly turned around and realised it wasn't working in that model. And then now, obviously, Dempsey was eventually given the full contract just before the end of the season, which at the time I was very dubious about. I was sort of in the way of, is it worth giving someone a contract when you haven't actually met your goals yet? Obviously, we've got the playoffs in the end, but I just sort of thought we'll see that as the marker, and then if that's completed, then give him the contract 100%. Because he's got the results. He's done a great job. It was just sort of interesting one to bring him in. I think it was 2 or 3 games shy of the end of the season without knowing if we were getting playoffs or not.
Yeah. You touched on it then. Obviously, we offered Dempsey the permanent role, and he looks like he's going to be the manager going into next season in March. Billy stepped down from his management role in January. I think, for me, that was the turning point, because, as you said then, it's difficult when you're a player manager. Billy will say this himself. I imagine if we get him on as a guest one day, he'll probably attest to this, that it's difficult to juggle the two, especially at this level when it's not professional and he's got his working life outside of it. I think we really went on a bit of a run, it felt like, from then, when Billy was solely focused on those playing responsibilities. And for me, it was one of the unsung, well, not unsung, but sort of almost felt undervalued players of the season for me, and I was surprised that he didn't pick up any accolades in the end of season honours.
I think he's one of them, Billy, that you could give it him every year if you wanted to. I think is the heart and the passion that he shows for the club, his work rate, how his personality within the club, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch, he's an absolute top guy, and I think you could honestly give him an award every year if you wanted to. And I think that's the thing, you don't want to end up taking it away from people who've come in maybe for a year or 2 years and really earned the stripes. I think Cam Lancaster getting a good haul of awards was very, very acceptable. I think he's been a great lad, again, on and off the pitch, but his performances at the back next to Billy and learning his trade of being a centre-half a lot more has been excellent. So, yeah, I think when they took Billy out of that role and he could focus on his playing, I think, with under Dempsey on his own, I think we've only lost, 2-3 games maybe in about 15, 16. There's been a lot of wins in there as well. So I think, he's done a good job, and I think it was definitely the right move for the club going forward.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though, to touch on Cam Lancaster there, the Burnley Beckenbauer, as I've called him. It's going to stick one day.
It's going to stick. I like that. Yeah, we can go with that. We can run with that.
I've said it on here, so it's going to stick. But, what a player he's been this season. I think, is he 21? Something like that?
Yeah, he's only young. He's probably similar age to me. I'm 22. He's probably roughly the same sort of age, I'm pretty sure. With sort of the young lads, there was Cam, there was Max before he left for FC United and Manchester. So yeah, he's definitely one of the young bunch anyways, and he's done an absolutely stellar job.
I think this is a moment that a lot of people find out you're only 22. Tough paper round.
I don't know which way that goes, with expecting worse, with expecting like younger or older, I don't really know. But
Cam Lancaster, what a revelation he's been. I think he came up through the youth ranks, and he's just stepped in.
Yeah, well, I remember him stepping in towards the end of last season, I think it was, or maybe the season before. And we've had a few decent centre-halves in the last few years. Let's not get anywhere out of line with that. We've had, obviously, Billy's been there long enough. Lee Pugh, when he's played at centre-half, I thought, has done a stellar job. We had Harrison Burke, a couple of years ago. Yeah. He was a great young centre-half again. So we've definitely had a few decent centre-halves back there, but I think Cam's just his consistency, his commitment, his accuracy. Do you know what I mean? I don't see him miss many tackles. If he's going and he's making the tackle and he's making it work. Never lose his head as well. Got a very good head on the pitch. I've seen a few people try to wind him up and he's just walked away. So I think he's done a very good job, and he's well deserved the awards that he's got this season. Yeah,
especially for his age as well. You'd think there could be a bit of rashness to his game or whatever, but certainly what I know when I watch him play is that he'll always, when he goes up for a header or to win a first or second ball, he'll always be first to it. He'll always make a challenge effectively, and to have that composed head on him at such a young age is great to see, and I think he's one that we're going to be really hoping to keep hold of going into next season. But looking at because we only had the end of season awards, I think it was last week, so just going to go through some of the awards now. So Manager's Player of the Year was Richie Baker. Young Player of the Year, as we mentioned, Cam Lancaster. He also got the Players' Player of the Year and the Supporters' Player of the Year, so he really did clean up there. Sefton Gonzalez, top scorer, with 17 goals. I think he was third in the scoring charts in the league, so
it's not bad. Another solid year, because if you remember, he was only second last year to Max, I think, who nicked it on the last day of the season, if I remember rightly.
And then there was a few sort of appearance awards. So Ross Dent getting his 250th appearance for Clitheroe, and then Chris Thompson 200 appearances for Clitheroe as well, both legends in their own right. But you touched on Max leaving then. There's been a lot of change within the squad, as you'd expect at this level. Who surprised you that's come in?
Who surprised me?
Don't want to put you on the spot, but
yeah,
there's been a lot.
There has been a lot this year, and I think Mark Pugh's made a big difference to the squad, as you'd expect. I thought maybe we'd seen a couple of goals out of him and things like that, but I think just the way he keeps the ball moving around the pitch and keeps us going forward has been very impressive. Max leaving, obviously we can touch on that and talk about what we think about that whole happening of him leaving but then going to a league above, which I think who else we've had coming on loan. You have put me on. Oh, I think Abs has been standout.
He's still mine.
It's been tough at times when he's picked up a few knocks at times, but as a player, just the amount of times you'll see him pick up the ball and just you sat there in your head saying, run at him, get him turning, and he just turned players inside and out. And there was the Kids Grove game where it was much changed towards the end of the year with obviously his preparing for the playoffs. He played that day because he'd been out of injury and we'd been playing a different way the last couple of games. But he came on, I know he started that game, he came into the side, and he was trying to break lines and run off the back of defenders and stuff, and it was just a completely different way we've seen any of the front three playing, knowing that we usually play around Sefton. So yeah, I think he definitely spent his time in very well, got some very good goals, popped up in the right places when he was needed to. I think he's definitely my star loanee, but what would you expect with it? He's from Macclesfield at the end of the day, and I think there's been a few coming to the squad. We've had Jacob Hansen came in as well, Jabba, and I was sat speaking to his mum on the way back, weren't we, from Kids Grove.
I was begging them to let him stay next season.
And I think again, he was another solid loanee from Macclesfield, so we thank them for that, if we thank them for anything this season. But yeah, Jabba's another one. We've had a lot of people come in during the season, whether they've been on loans or permanent. I think Daz Holden's been a great addition to the squad at left back. Trying to think who else we've had come in. We've had Siddy come in. Siddy's not got a load of game time, but I've liked him when I've seen him in there. But he's hard to get in that midfield with your likes of Danny Wilkins, Richie Baker, Ross Dent, the usuals that are always going to be in there.
Yeah, I think Siddy started really well when he came in. He made an immediate impact, and he just sort of tightened up that midfield that had been lacking a bit, and there'd been a few sort of coming in and out with whether, Danny had a suspension, Ross had a suspension.
Oh, Danny had a suspension. Who would have thought that? Yeah, if you're watching this, if you're seeing this, Balboa, I know, yeah. Dear me, but yeah, you're right. Siddy definitely made a positive impact when he came first in, but there's quite a depth in that midfield at the minute. Do you know what I mean? We've had quite a few this season. We've had Callum Harris come in. I thought he got better as he went on. Charlie Russell was in at one point. I've not seen him for a while. Whether he's still around the squad, I'm not sure, but he came in for a while.
He's always reliable.
Yeah, exactly. Always reliable. Obviously, been at Colne, so a local lad. We had Callum Lee, who went off to... Where did he end up?
Kids Grove he went, but he was really, really good at the start of the season.
I enjoyed Callum, yeah. He grew into his game from last season and just very much became a very good ball-playing centre mid and just sat there and sort of ensured that we kept the ball moving at all times. But yeah... He moved on, but he's another one who I thought had quite a good season while he was here.
Yeah, I think for me, Daz Holden, like you said just then, he was one of the ones that sort of unsung hero of the season, just reliable at left back. You can tell he's had a lot of experiences in the Football League. I think it was Hartlepool he played for a number of years. Right, Lee Pugh, brilliant. It seems like we'd score from one of his long throw-ins every week.
Yeah, you get a man like that out wide who can do that, and you've got someone in the box like your Seftons, and you're going to cause problems. We've seen a few goals this season come from either knockdowns from throw-ins or corners, or free kicks for that matter. But yeah, having your big lads in there like Billy and Seftons, I mean, it's caused issues with having someone like Lee who can get that ball into there.
Yeah, I think for me, I know he picked up the manager's player of the year, Richie Baker. For me, obviously, he's not a new signing. He was retained, but I just thought for me, he was my player of the season. Just absolutely brilliant. He's like a metronome in the middle of the park, and obviously, he's not going to do the hard yards potentially, but he's just such an accurate passer, and he's the heart of this team. I think one of those massively underrated players for me.
I think you're right. I think he's really stepped up. I think Ross has had to sort of manage his personality this year because we've known him to get involved in the more Danny Wilkins side of the game, as we'll now call it at times. But he's done that with having the armband. But I think Richie's another one who you could see being a leader in that team, and I think we have seen it. We've seen he's stepped up his coaching within the managerial team. They mentioned that before the end of the year, and you could tell in his games, how much he's trying to organise the lads, how much he's the one getting them going and stuff. And in a game, like you say, he doesn't cover the absolute hard yards, and he won't be the one who's run the most distance in a game, but he just gets around making sure we're constantly flowing. Again, like Callum Lee was doing, but from a more senior position with a lot more experience, and his passing's been pinpoint. And I think, his leadership on the pitch has been great as well, so I can see where you're coming from with player of the season. I think there's a few lads who could get a shout, but Richie would definitely be up there in my top 3.
So in terms of sort of the rest of the league, I've not actually got it to hand, the league table, but off the top of your head, any sort of surprises there? I mean, we've lost both of our local rivals. Macclesfield and Workington went up, working to sort of our expense. But any others sort of in there that sort of surprised you, or any you want to touch on? I
think it's been an interesting and long season. As much as it feels like we said in the video the other day at Workington, I think it was. It only just felt like we got going, obviously, with how many changes there'd been. It felt like we'd only just settled and we could have gone for a while. I think, obviously, there was no surprise in Matt going straight up. I think it's been interesting to see people give them as good a run for them. Obviously, they've finished with a decent advantage. But some of the games I've seen them lose or get a tough game out of opponents when they came to our place. They struggled and we got a very good point out of them. And I thought it was a very well-deserved point as well. So, I thought, obviously, we've lost the local rivals, which is disappointing. Rivalries are a great thing. You can hate a club as much as you want from whoever you support. I mean, locally, we've got the Burnleys, Blackburns, Preston Blackpools, and as a fan, you hate the other side. But a lot of the time, I know a lot of people would rather have the derby in there for something to look forward to every year than not at all. So it's not the greatest to lose them, but at the end of the day, it shows we're still superior. So you've got to take that. But I think obviously we lost Skem as well. Skem have been moved down due to the ground grading. But no, I'm trying to think. So we did have the table up before we were looking. Who's down there? Rami just completely capitulated. A long way off the back. They were relegated a good few games before the end. I thought Northwich would have been up there a lot more than they were. I think I've seen them play some good stuff at times. And I think the main one's got to be Leek not making it through the playoffs just by the fact of, obviously, I saw them come to us a few weeks ago before the end of the season. They were possibly the best side I've seen come to us all year up there with Macclesfield, the way they moved the ball, and it was really impressive. They just didn't really have any final sort of finisher in the box.
Yeah, I think they've maybe run out of steam at that point and they're in a bit of patchy form. But going back to what you said about sort of Colne and Ramsbottom, I think at this level it's a bit of a strange one because they're not really proper derbies, are there? There's no real hatred there. You know, they're teams that have been in the league with each other for years and years and years, and there's a lot of friendship there between committees and everything. And it is a real shame to lose Colne and Ramsbottom, mainly because that means we're going to have two really far away trips next season. We're going to have to put in. I've got the table, the teams that are going to be coming into our league. I'm going to touch on that in a bit. And there's a lot of far journeys, but it is a real shame to lose both of those. But I'm sure they'll bounce back. But with Skelmersdale going down, I think that meant Widnes got a reprieve from the playoffs, so they're going to be remaining in the league. It's looking like it's going to be an interesting league next year, but obviously there's no Macclesfield, no Workington. How do you think they get on in the league above?
I think Macclesfield will walk it again. I think they've got the money too. They've got the funding to go and buy whoever they want and bring in, which is fair enough. They're all right to do that. We've seen a few people doing it recently. You've got your Wrexhams spending money and bringing, or at least just attracting the better players who kind of come in and think, you know what, I'll get my face back in front of the cameras and get a bit more out of it. Which is fair. We've seen Ben Foster go there, and apparently he took a wage cut, fair play to him, and then got him up. But obviously the way of doing it down here, where there's not really any cap on what you spend, is how Macclesfield have been doing it. And don't get me wrong, they've brought in some stellar players. They haven't just thrown money at people and gone, you know what, come down, like move down and play for us. There was a lad, was it James Berry?
Yeah.
He was a great player. I've mentioned before, Trey Pemberton, when we've seen him play, I thought he was a class act. Obviously they had Nicky Maynard, who's now announced his retirement. But yeah, I think they'll have the money and the funds and the facilities more than anything, and the backing from fans and the club. I think they'll go straight up again, or at least give a good challenge to going up again. Workington, I'm interested to see what they do. They weren't the greatest team I've seen all year, but again, we went to theirs and
they started really poorly.
Yeah, they started really poorly, and it can be tough if you don't get out of the block straight away, especially if you're coming up. You need to make sure you get a good few points on the board before Christmas to make sure you're not going to risk going down. And there's a lot of games before Christmas as well. I was looking before, and we played 7 games in November this year. So yeah, I think they'll have to get a good few points on the board straight away. I didn't see anybody in that team who I looked at and thought, you know what, he's really, really impressive. That stood out the other night. No disrespect to him, because I thought they were definitely worthy winners of the tie. So I'll be interested to see how they do. But I think Mac will be right up there again. That's their plan, and that's what they're going to possibly do.
Yeah, I mean, I've always held this opinion, it's probably an unpopular opinion, that the league above is probably weaker than ours in terms of general quality. There's a lot of teams that go up from this league, and just off the top of my head, you've got Warrington Rylands, Bamber Bridge, Marine, in the last few years alone, that have gone up and comfortably survived, if not been challenging for playoffs spots.
Well, what we're seeing, Warrington beat Bamber Bridge in the playoffs to go up again.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Bamber Bridge, I think, finished, I want to say, second or third.
But you're looking at teams like Bamber Bridge especially. Do you know what I mean? Whatever the quality's like in the league above, obviously we've seen Marine before. We played them. We've played them before, obviously, and I've seen them play against a few different teams when there was a pre-season tournament here a couple of years ago. Obviously, we've seen them play Tottenham in years gone past.
Yeah.
But I think, the quality up there at times is on the same level as down here, definitely. I wouldn't say it's massively above. I wouldn't like to say it's lower, knowing I haven't seen an awful lot of it. But from what I have seen, I haven't seen anything extremely impressive. Obviously, teams like Bamber Bridge, you've got your local influences. Obviously, they picked a few lads up from Preston North End, which I think is a massive bonus for them. But obviously, it didn't get them over the line. But they'll be looking to do that again next year. So I think Warrington will get right in the Workington will get right in the mix. And I don't see Macclesfield really having an issue. I think they'll be right up there, probably with your Bamber Bridge again for automatics or playoffs.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Workington at least top half next season. Just sort of looking at the trend with the teams that have gone up in recent years. Obviously, some have struggled as well. You've seen, I think, Atherton Collieries, they went up a few years ago. They're sort of down near the bottom, but it is dependent on how you rebuild and you spend and what you get in, what you can attract, sort of thing. But I don't foresee there being any trouble for Macclesfield. I think I'll put it on record. I'm sure I'll do a pre-season predictions anyway, but I think they'll make it 3 out of 3 promotions on the bounce. And you know what? Fair play to them. I think from what their fans have been through, seeing their club die and come back, I think they more than deserve it. And I think they get a lot of stick, Mac, from a lot of us sometimes, but I think they're doing it a good way in terms of first year. You know, when they're in the Northwest Counties, you could say that they were throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of squad rotation, a lot of players coming in and out, trial and error. But this season they've had a very settled squad. They've moved to that daytime training model, which I believe is 1 or 2 off it being actually full-time.
Yeah, I remember it was said at the start of the season, we had them obviously first game, and that was all the talk at the start of the year, that by the end of the season they were going to be pretty much full-time.
Yeah, I could easily see them going again, because their squad right now is probably lower National League North quality with some of the players they've got, you know, like ex-Premier League names like Neil Dans and Mark Duffy, who's played countless games for Sheffield United, and all these sort of incredible players in their squad. I could definitely see them going again, and they will invest as well. That is the key. They're not just going to go into the league above with the same squad. They will bring a few, 3, 4, 5 names in to help them go up. But focused on Clitheroe, let's look at the league for next season. So I've got it in front of me now. So we've got 1874 Northwich. We've got Avro, who have been promoted via the Northwest Counties playoffs. Bootle, Chasetown, who have moved across from the Midlands League, City of Liverpool, obviously us, Hanley Town, Hedensford Town, which is an interesting one. They were, I believe, relegated from the Southern Division, but they're based around Staffordshire, so hence they've come into our league. Kidsgrove, Leek, Mosley, Nantwich, who, again, relegated from the Premier Division, Newcastle Town, Prescott Cables, Runcorn Linnets, Stalybridge Celtic, relegated from the Premier Division, Trafford, Widnes, who obviously got that reprieve from the relegation playoffs, Witton Albion and Vauxhall Motors, who were promoted as champions from the Northwest Counties. Looking at that league, and I don't want to, this is going to sound biased, but I think we can win that league. There's no one really there that scares me other than Leek.
Yeah, I'm going to say, if Leek play the way they did towards the end of the season, they can stick with that and continue that on, then yeah, they'd be a challenge. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's any teams in there. If we can stay on this form, it's all sort of, I mean, we've got to come to the new season yet, though, and we've got to see who we have in the squad. That's the thing. And I was going to mention this, but you moved us on from Mac, and I thought, you know what, we'll move on. But they're settled. They know who they've got. I mean, they're all pretty. I'm pretty sure they're all contracted.
Most of them
they know who. You know who you're getting. The fans know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
They know what the aim is. They know where they're going. So you know they're going to bring that many in each week. Whereas in this league, still we have a lot of teams. It's fair enough. This is what this league is. They're just 2 steps ahead, and they're going to be for a while. But you don't know what you're going to have come the new season. Do you know what I mean? We've got David Dempsey tied down as a manager, which is good. But players wise, anything could happen between now and the season. It all depends on, I mean, who we retain and who other teams retain and where they go. If you want to be, the main thing you want to be doing is keeping hold of your squad, really. Obviously improving it. You don't want to lose too many though, because then you change the entire feel of the dressing room, and I mean the way you play might change. So I think if things stay the same and we can keep hold of the majority of the players, your Cam Lancasters are very important. Your core of the team, then I think we'll be all right, and I think we should give a good challenge again. But I think the main thing to make use of again come the new season will be loans and stuff like that from teams above to try and give their young lads who maybe don't get as much time some game time.
Yeah.
But I think we'll definitely be up there.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because obviously I think the aim of the club is to retain the bulk of the squad we've got. Obviously Dempsey will want to bring in some more of his own players that he trusts, but I think keeping hold of the likes of the stalwarts like your Chris Thompsons and your Ross Dents, and even if we can persuade Mark Pugh to stay on another season, and I know it was only meant to be till the end of the season, but I think having someone like him around with his experience could be absolutely vital for us next season. And even your likes of Sefton Gonzalez, proven goal scorer at this level, we don't want to lose him. If we can keep hold of the bulk of that squad, like you said, I see no reason why we couldn't be minimum playoffs again, if not challenging for that top spot.
Yeah, I think market times can be the difference maker in a squad. Do you mean in a game of knowing when people are tiring off and do you mean being able to break teams down? But I don't think at this level we necessarily need him to do well. I think coming the end of the season, when you're trying to find that extra bit of something, he was very helpful. But I do think this squad, whether he stays on or not, has the capability to do it. I'd love to see him stay, don't get me wrong. Top bloke and an absolutely fantastic player on the ball. Always looked like he had so much time. Found the half spaces very well and was able to get balls into the box or just keep the move flowing. So I'd 100% take him again, but it depends if we can afford him. But I think I don't want to ruffle any feathers of people, but I do think we need another striker. I think, Sefton isn't at his greatest every day.
He'll admit that himself.
Yeah, and that's why you're in this league at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? We love having him here, and he's been last year was second to Max, but this year is top goal scorer, third top goal scorer in the league. But on them days where that system of playing through Sefton isn't working, we've got to have another way to play, and I don't think we have that at the minute. So I think someone else up top with a bit of a different style and us being able to adapt to that. Because if we can't do that, then it's pointless. But I think we need that. Because I think, look at Workington. We just didn't seem to create an awful lot, I didn't think. Mm-hmm. And something different might have just given us an edge and being able to sort of ask Workington the question of, right, can you deal with two different types of attack? Obviously, we lost a striker this year.
Yeah,
in Max Kane. And I think that is a different subject in itself. I think it wasn't working under Dempsey. He's obviously gone up and done very, very well. I'm very happy for the lad. And I've spoken to him quite a lot about it, and it's been going really well. And you could tell just before he went that he wasn't happy and he wanted more minutes, which is fair enough. Do you know what I mean? He's a young lad. He wants to get his career going. So, yeah. But I do think we need another striker just to offer something different. And yeah, we can retain that core of sort of your Richies, your Danny Wilkins, your Ross, Chris Thompson, Billy Priestley, Cam. Just that, mainly the spine of the team more than anything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's quite a few young, quick wingers out there who can get to the end of a long ball or get a ball in the box. I think I'd be looking if he was fit again at bringing Ben McKenna back, but what the relationship's like there, obviously he had a contract and then obviously doesn't anymore, but he was out injured for a while. Whether he'd want to come back, I don't know, but I know he wants to start playing again. So yeah, I think retain that core and possibly bring in a striker, and I think we'll be looking good.
Yeah, I think the teams that do well in this league are either the ones that have a shed load of money or they have a really settled squad, like Workington, for example. You know, they've not got, I don't think they've got a massive budget, but they've had that same squad together for 4-5 years, and they just build that sort of cohesion and chemistry that eventually gets you up. So I think we can build that. You know, I want to say it's going to be next year, but you never know. You know, there's some teams in there that I look at. I think Prescott Cables could be one. They've got a bit of money now. They could certainly challenge in that top.
Well, I think, like
5.
you say, that the main thing is you're saying about the cohesion and the chemistry. I think in these leagues lower down, it's very, very important. And I think, like you say, if we can keep that core of the squad who have been together a good few years now, and you mean when you've got that cohesion and chemistry and you can work with each other and see what the issues are and work around them, then all you've got to do then is bring in the extra bits to just add that bit of flair to your side or a bit of depth or whatever. But if you can keep that core around and stick with that and work with that, then I think, yeah, we'll be successful. So I think if you bring an entirely new squad in of people who don't know each other, even if they're great players, without knowing how to play with each other, it's going to cause issues. So I think if we can keep hold of them main sort of stalwart players that we've had for a good few years, then I think we'll be all right and we'll be on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, I think Witten, they'll be there or thereabouts. They're a good side, just missed out on playoffs. Runcorn will go again, I'm sure. They've been there for a number of years, sort of in and around playoffs. Trafford, they were picking up some form towards the end of the season. I said Prescott. Then look at the relegated teams as well. They'll always be a threat coming down. I think Stalybridge might be all right, although I think there's a bit of issues going on there. Nantwich, again, they could challenge Hednesford. You just don't know. You just don't know. There's so much that could happen between now and when that season starts that it could be completely flipped on its head, and you could see anyone challenging for that title. It's impossible to predict, but I'm sure I'll go and do some sort of prediction video before the start of the season that I'll get horrifically wrong. But I think the overriding thing that we need to look at is there is optimism for the new season. Obviously, it was disappointing to exit the playoffs in the way we did, but you know, pride in that we'd gotten further than we ever have before. You know, I think we've been in this league pretty much as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
If not a little bit just before, spent in the Northwest Counties. But I think we are due that promotion, and just hopefully it comes next season.
Well, I think over the last couple of years, it's definitely been coming. It's been heading in the right direction. I think the club as a whole has gone forward. Obviously, was it last year we got the award for the best away day?
Yeah,
of the season, at our level, which I think we can be very proud of. I think there's been a lot of change around the club. Obviously, the chairman's just left, so we've got a new chair. Whoever will take over as chairman, we don't know yet, or at least I don't. If you do, then please do shed light.
I have no idea, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, and I think that chairman's given a lot of money and time to the club, and we can't thank Stu enough for it. It's been a cracking journey, and it's definitely put us on the front foot. I think we've seen some great players coming in that time as well. So I think we've got to see who comes in. We've got to retain a good list of players, because that's what's going to get you people through the door and through the gate, and spending the money at the bar or at the club shop or on season tickets, etc. is a good retain list, and then a good idea of where we're going forward. Because if people don't know that, then they're a bit sceptical to get season tickets and spend the hard-earned money, especially at a time when money's so hard to sort of come by with the way the country is at the minute. But yeah, I think we've got to. We're in a good place, but we need to know what's next.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it there. Now it was going to sort of be my closing point about Stuart. The job he's done in the 3 years has been absolutely outstanding. Transformed this club. You weren't really here before he arrived, were you?
No, not really. No,
I saw it before. I've been supporting Clitheroe for 6-7 years, and when I came in, look, absolutely no disrespect to the previous people running the club, but we were floating around sort of lower mid-table, just about scraping survival every year. The club needed a lot of infrastructure investment, all that sort of stuff, and Stuart's just come in and done everything we've asked and more, and just a massive thank you for him, because without him, there would be a chance we wouldn't even have our football club. And I just think we need to build on the back of the success that he's brought to us. With him, we've gone from relegation contenders to consistently finishing around the top 6, around the playoffs, and I just hope that trend can continue. But optimism going forward, and yeah, I do look forward to the next season, definitely. But have you enjoyed the format of this sort of sit down thing? It's
I've
very different for the channel.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Obviously, we've done it a couple of times before when we started a podcast earlier in the season. Whether anybody saw that, don't know. It wasn't around long. I wouldn't worry. Do you mean we are going to look to do it again, hopefully? But yeah, do you mean it's a nice way to look through the season and see sort of the moments that have come and gone, and sort of look at next season. So yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. Yeah,
I sort of want to make this a regular thing on the channel. Guys watching, hello camera, let me know if you have enjoyed this sort of content, and if you want to see more sort of podcast style stuff going forward, just in addition to the channel. But I'm looking to get guests on as well, and if you'd be happy being the co-host, I think this could be quite a good little format. But in terms of guests, let's get the ball rolling. Who would be someone you'd want to see come on, dream guest or realistic?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think you got to look at people who we've seen come through this club as a good start. Obviously, you cover a lot of different leagues and teams and stuff like that, but people who with interesting stories. So I think Mark Pugh would be one, knowing he's played for us, and obviously his Premier League stories. Joel Byram would probably be another. Trying to think from different teams who you could. Do you mean who I'd love to just have a sit down chat with, and I'd love to talk to. Obviously, with you doing some work at Fleetwood, Scott Brown would be a great one, just to talk through Scotland more than anything. Do you know what I mean? Fleetwood, he's doing a great job there, as far as I know.
Yeah, they're doing great.
So he's got his hair back as well, which is quite impressive. So how he's done that, I don't know.
Apparently, he could always grow it.
Oh, he just wanted to like an absolute hooligan.
Choice,
fair dues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to. He'd be a great one to talk to. There's so many that you could sit down and just talk through the stories, and I mean the changing room stories and the career paths they've been through. But yeah, I think some of the lads who have been Premier League or sort of Championship level for us would be a great one to talk to. Yeah. Trying to think who else, if there's anybody else I can think off the top of my head.
Anyone Preston related? I know you. Obviously, people know you're a Preston fan.
Preston related. There could be loads really. I'm trying to think who off the top of my head would be a really good talk with a lot of experience. Tom Clark's got to be up there. Obviously, he's been at Fleetwood as well. And he's gone back to Halifax now, as far as I know. Right. But yeah, he's had a lot of experience. Obviously, got us promoted through the playoffs. Same with the likes of your Paul Gallagher's, and but yeah, that'd be a good one to have a sit down chat with. Would be Tom Clark. Yeah,
I mean, there's loads for me. Quite sad in the fact that I've got a list of people that I'd love to get on, but I think the good starting point would be getting players on from the club. So I'd love to talk to someone like Danny Wilkins and talk to him about how he's built his brand Capo up. something like that. Or Billy, he's had a long established career in and around non-league. I think spoke about Carl Garner potentially coming on, the man who recommended Jamie Vardy to be signed for Fleetwood Town.
Yeah, that's a story, isn't it?
That's an incredible
that's
story.
Definitely one we'd love. Yeah, we'd love to hear about that one.
Tyrese Dolan, who played at Clitheroe for a while, now at Blackburn Rovers. He's got some good stories to tell, I'm sure. But guys, let us know in the comments anyone that you want to come on this podcast. If you enjoy the format, let us know in the comments who you want to get on. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Also, a massive thank you as well for getting me over the line for 2,000 subscribers as well.
Congratulations, pal. I saw it the other day. Well done.
But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next one. I don't know why I did that little... that was really cringe.